Morning and welcome to Cisilion Live. I'm joined again by the usual suspects, Iqbal and Rob. We've mixed it up a little bit over the last few weeks, guys. So good to have you back on and all together. As we've been talking about internally, we're shifting our focus for the next 5 weeks with a series of podcasts about arguably the most impactful business beneficial aspect of business transformation, which is cloud communications. As a seller of this technology, it's really easy for me to say why a business should concentrate on this. More access to meetings and other features, fully scalable for home workers, office workers, people working from Starbucks or wherever you're working. There's a lot of enhanced security, cost predictability for the CFO, insightful data and analytics, both in terms of the sales of the business and also the culture and the usability of the features, and naturally the omni-channel contact center benefits that you'll get from a cloud platform. To summarize what I've just said, it gives a far superior overall user and customer experience for businesses. And we know these benefits because we've been doing it for years. So I wanted to start with a really, really simple question or question of two. Why cloud communications? And Rob, bouncing this over to you, more importantly, why now?
And thanks, Craig, and brilliant intro and spoken like a true salesman, I must say as well. And I think like everything, when it comes to digital transformation of any level, timing is one of the key principles that drive behaviour. And I think there's never been, I think, a better time for organisations to really think about and focus what they're doing now, what their new business looks like. I think the customers we speak to are either in flight or fight mode as we start recovering from COVID-19, and I think a lot of what we're seeing is driving this huge demand around cloud in particular, cloud workers in particular, has been brought around by the challenges that organisations have faced as they went through lockdown and kind of had to readjust. And we touched on some of these a few weeks ago when the UK lockdown first happened. But for many, we're working with organisations that have got quite traditional on-premise voice solutions, Cisco, Avaya, Mitel, whatever that might be. And for many of them, they've not had the remote access technologies or the deployment models that have actually allowed them to get and use their phone systems, which sounds quite strange. So, we've had customers that have literally just been forwarding every single call that comes into their environment onto their staff's mobiles, because they have no method of accessing them. That then means that the tools they're using every day to collaborate in other ways, so instant messaging, group chat, collaboration, those things have been completely disjointed and had no ability to integrate voice services. And I think when you start looking at these things almost from the outside back in, and I always kind of compare this back to email now, and I'm sure some of you on the call have still got email in your data centers and things, but typically if you were going to deploy an email solution now or a website or to be honest even file servers, you'd never think about deploying them on premises. Why would you want to build data centers and secure them and invest in all the kind of money that you need to do to create scalability and agility when you could just spin it up and host it in the cloud? And I think this is now what we're seeing with voice. And we've been so busy, I think it's fair to say, with helping our customers not just plan but deploy and enable cloud connected calling across their organizations. We've been fortunate, I think, in this space. We've had to recruit new people to deal with the demand that we're having with our customer base. So I think it is something that is happening now very, very quickly. And the other thing to add to that, I think, about why now is the platforms are mature. I think cloud calling has still got this bit of a myth that it's quite new and is it going to work, and can it actually support my business? Is it just for SMB? And I think those are myths now. And Iqbal, I'm sure you'll have some comments on this in a moment. But we deployed our first customer's cloud phone system now over 5 years ago. It was actually a well-known gaming company that you would have all heard of, that has a little blue hedgehog as their mascot. But they moved nearly 1,500 people in the UK and Europe to what was Skype for Business online back in the day. And of course now that's kind of transitioning into Teams. So and we've got lots of other examples like that. So it's not new. It's not in preview. It's not in beta. It is truly enterprise grade, and there are organisations globally now doing this at pace. So I think now is as good a time as any. If you're looking at your wider collaboration platform, you're looking at how your teams come together, your new structure for post-COVID. Voice is an integral part of that, and I think if you're going to do anything with it, now's the time to put it in the cloud. Iqbal, I'm sure you've got lots of things to say on that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When I look back at the history of where we've come since the early 2000s, when I graduated, I landed my first role as a voice engineer. There was this huge disruption in the industry around people moving away from TDM technology, old PBX legacy, into what we refer to as voice over IP, and that was probably the biggest disruption in that kind of voice industry, and I could see many organizations kind of clinging on to that old technology because of people's insecurities around retaining their jobs and things like that. But eventually the vendors came on board. Cisco kind of led the way during that period, with the emergence of Cisco Unified Comms Manager, and that's kind of evolved into what it is today. And now we're talking about cloud calling. We were talking about cloud calling as if it's the right time to do it now. But as you said, it's been around a while now. It's been fairly mature, 5 years. The industry, it is filled with vendors offering these services. When you look at, I guess we always refer to Gartner as a good reference point. If you look at the top right hand corner, you've got the four key kind of players in there, Cisco and Microsoft kind of leading the way, and then you've got the disruptors like 8x8, Ring Central, but they're no longer visionaries, they're no longer challengers, they are actually leading in that space too. So it is a very competitive landscape. But what this means is it's even more confusing for customers looking to make that decision around what to do next, whether they should be sticking to who they're working with now, their incumbent, looking at what their cloud strategy is, or actually going back into the market, see if there is more of a competitive play there, but more importantly, which can deliver the best user experience for your business. Yeah. And that's the absolute the key thing for us is just making sure that we as an organization, when you're looking at these things, you want to try and align those things together. From our perspective at Cisilion, our focus, as I'm sure you all know, we do bang this drum quite a bit around Cisco and Microsoft being the leading vendors for us. So we've definitely backed the two top right hand corner in Gartner's quadrant as our vendor of choice for delivering cloud calling. And I know next week we'll be going into more detail around our propositions, but what I would like to do is talk through what these two vendors are doing in this space today. So, from a Microsoft perspective, we all know, we've said already previously Skype for Business. Now with Teams, we've got the ability to enable that phone system feature. So that's ultimately delivering PBX capability in the cloud. But to deliver that end-to-end PSTN functionality, you need to consider what you're going to do around the actual voice side. So with Microsoft Teams specifically, you've got the choice of going with Microsoft calling plans. So that's a bundled approach where Microsoft are basically your service provider delivering your numbers from their partnerships with their telcos into your Teams tenant. The other two options are direct routing via a physical SBC deployed either on your network or hosted in Azure. And the final one, which we're seeing is quite a popular one, is many of the telcos today are offering the direct routing capability via hosted SBCs. So there's quite a few options there. Really need to think about the use case, where your offices are, where you're based. If you have global reach, then it tends to be a mix of the kind of solutions you could be looking at. But certainly that's where kind of partners like Cisilion can come and kind of help you make the right decisions around that.
Yeah.
So just kind of touching on Cisco a little bit, moving on from Microsoft, Cisco likewise, they recently acquired Broadsoft to help really ramp up their cloud business. They were always traditionally known for on-prem Cisco, on-prem telephony and collaboration, and they've achieved a lot of success. Like we have many customers still using those platforms and reaping the benefits. But Cisco recognized the industry is moving towards cloud, and with this acquisition of Broadsoft, they have now pretty much rebranded all of those cloud calling offering into two. They've broken that into two. Number one, WebEx calling, and number two, UCM Cloud. And I'm proud to also announce that we're one of the first partners in the UK to have that capability where we're able to deliver those services for Cisco Cloud Calling. And so those are two kind of options I just wanted to kind of share with you guys. Craig, I don't know if you've got any other comments or anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I actually want, thanks Iqbal and Rob, that they were really, really good answers. I want to come back, actually, we mentioned use cases, maybe a little bit of focus on the top 3 things an organisation should look for when they're, maybe top 3 to 5 things people are looking for when they're putting their use case together around personas, technologies and all of that. Definitely. But Rob, Iqbal's just mentioned that we are one of the first cloud collaboration, cloud contact centre, cloud call manager partners in the UK. Rob, I think we've got some Microsoft news as well. And I guess where I'm going with these 3 things is, how important is it with those 2 leaders, where they are a load of pretenders to the throne, how important is it to have a partner that's got that holistic view of all those technologies? Rob, I'll throw that one at you. Those 3 things to you first, my friend.
Thanks, Craige. Yeah, and I think really valid points. And I think, as we say, hopefully a lot of you listening know of us, or at least have come across us. And as Iqbal said, we focus, and always have focused, really on Microsoft and Cisco as our key, not just collaboration partners, but technology partners across everything that we do, across infrastructure and security and collaboration, and of course voice. And you're right, we hold some of the highest accreditations across the industry with those. And I think we were the first UK partner on the Microsoft side to earn our new Teams voice specialization. Microsoft have released a whole load of new advanced specializations to try and recognize partners that have some of those unique strengths in certain aspects, and obviously we're very proud to be the first in the UK to earn that. So I think that, along with our Cisco advanced voice specialization, is really important. And I think that's important for our customers, because naturally the majority of the customers that we work with are using best of breed technologies to migrate from. So whilst we talk about Cisco and Microsoft, our voice engineers have had a wealth of experience across multiple different telcos and different voice providers. So we've got Avaya experience and Mitel experience, but primarily from a point of view of helping organizations migrate those services across. And I think a lot of this, Craig, comes back to kind of what's important. And Iqbal talked about the persona, and I think we very much get asked quite a lot, well, what should I do? Is 8x8 or WebEx or Microsoft? What's the best for me? And we could sit and argue about all those things from a kind of feature perspective all the time. But a lot of it comes down to how does your business operate today? How is it going to operate in the future? And of course, that answer is probably very different to what that answer would have been 3 months ago. And also, what are the other technologies that you're using? And I think we've been integrating solutions with our customers for a long time. We've worked when we first started, I guess really on the Microsoft journey. One of the things that was extremely popular within large enterprises was integrating things like Link back in the day with Mitel or Avaya or Cisco solutions with things like Cookie Link or CookieMon, which was the ability to try and get call presence and one-click dial service into instant messaging platforms. Of course, those have evolved quite a lot now, and we do find that quite a lot of customers do use multiple bits of technology or silos of technology. So you might be using WebEx for for your conferencing and video conferencing services. You might have another telephony platform you might be using for your main IPPBX. You might have a contact center provided by somebody else. You might be using Microsoft Teams for kind of internal collaboration and chat services and those kind of things. And so it's really about trying to think about what that longer term strategy is and whether an integrated solution is kind of where you want to go. And I think all the leading vendors are trying to go down that route. You've got, WebEx now are bringing, Cisco are bringing all of those components together to provide a truly unified solution. They've got their unified client. Microsoft have been doing that with Teams for a while, and I think a lot of that then comes down to, is that the approach you want to go down, or do you need or have a reason to kind of keep those technologies siloed? And a large part of the work that we do as part of our consulting arm is to ask those questions and to try and help organisations decide which method it is best. And for some of those, that might be an integrated solution with siloed technologies and trying to bind some of those things together. And for others, it may be looking at having a completely unified, single architecture approach across all of them. So I'm not sure that directly answers your question, Craig, but it kind of is always a bit of a it depends. Yeah. And I guess our guidelines and advice is, take the time to think about how those things work, and it's not just an IT decision. It is very much a decision that needs to get made across the organisation. Iqbal, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered those questions quite well. I'd probably like to shift the attention perhaps on the transitioning side. I think that's obviously quite key. Once you have decided on your key vendor to adopt cloud calling with, it's understanding how you can transition from where you are today to that environment, and that could include doing integration, and that's where the value of partners comes in, because particularly with cloud vendors, they're great at switching on the service, but that's pretty much it. It's really not, being able to integrate that into your business processes and other line of business apps and everything else in that environment. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to make that happen. So definitely transitions another key one. The other thing in terms of integration, I think this is where you can really start to differentiate between the different providers out there when it comes to reviewing and looking at the cloud calling providers. You've got the Microsoft Teams, for example, is very much focused around the Office 365 ecosystem and being able to deliver a great user experience. And then you've got these other vendors that are recognized that Microsoft do own that desktop. And how can they really add value to what Microsoft already offer? And that's generally what we're seeing in the industry is, if Microsoft can't deliver all of what we need, including cloud calling, what's the alternative? The alternative is to look at the other providers like Cisco with their WebEx calling offer. And the reason I say that is because, standard calling features are a given now. I think we just expect to be able to do all the standard things we've always done over the years. So that's pretty much the same across most vendors. I think what you then now need to start looking at is, how are these vendors innovating? What kind of integrations can they really offer? How can we integrate your calling services into your CRM system, for example? How can we tie those things up very, very neatly? Also, I've been working with a customer recently. Actually, we're looking to see how we can integrate WebEx calling into Alexa. So for users sat at home, they want to be able to take calls on their business number or make outbound calls. They want to be able to do that through Alexa very easily. And those kind of integrations are now available because, these. The likes of Cisco, for example, they've got open APIs for voice, SMS, messaging, meetings APIs, data APIs, which basically gives you that flexibility to do what you want with it, and that's where you really start to see the power behind the cloud calling offer. Because, as I said, majority of them kind of do what they do, and you kind of expect that. Features is absolutely key, but cost is as well, right? I mean, that ultimately comes down to it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think just to wrap that one up, Iqbal, I think that's a really valid point. Now, if you think about all these platforms now, they are all open API based, and I think the likes of the Office stack, for example, has been on that for a long time. Just think about your WebEx plugins or your meeting plugins that you might have within Office, and if you look at particularly, I know with the Cisco WebEx platform and Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Teams is a platform. They recently run their big build conference, and the majority focus was about integration into the platform, whether that's the automated adaptive cards, whether that's pulling information live around from HR systems and finance systems and those kind of things, the ability to simply just use chat, natural language chat within the context of asking the system to do things for you. Phone this person, how many days holiday have I got? And while these things aren't directly voice related, that's just another service that gets surfaced through that platform. That was too many images for yeah, so I think my summary point to that is it's a part of what you're investing in when you make these decisions is not just a product, it is a platform of how your future integration is going to work across your business. So you kind of need to think a little bit outside that box.
Yep.
and really do a bit of that research into kind of where is your business going, what might it want to be in the future, and does the platform that you're buying into allow you to do those things? And certainly, I'm not saying the others don't, but certainly from what we see in the Cisco and Microsoft space, that is very much the direction of travel. It's about how do you create this true integrated business adaptable service.
Yeah, thanks Rob, thanks Iqbal. And look, I see there's a few Q&As, a few questions anyway. We'll get round to those very shortly. Thanks for you guys sending those in. We touched on there, Rob, a couple of times. Iqbal, you mentioned it as well, the business benefits of all of this. And I mentioned at the start, at high level, the enhanced security. For me, what I'm talking to a lot of CFOs to about at the moment is cost predictability. That's huge. The data and analytics that can be used both in terms of internal user experience and customer engagement. What do you guys, I'll start with Iqbal, just very quickly, what do you guys consider as the main business benefits holistically? I know all cases are different, but what are businesses benefiting from cloud communications?
I think it's total cost of ownership is probably the obvious one that we all recognize is getting a handle on those costs. I think particularly when it comes to voice services, there's so many components to it. Depending on the size of organization you've got in the back end you have multiple telcos, PSTN services, potentially even multiple phone systems across different regions. Getting a handle on what that cost is very difficult for many organizations to quantify, and switching all of that, consolidating all of that into a cloud service gives you an accurate forecast around what those costs are. So I think that's the immediate benefit that most do recognize. And then it's just being able to innovate and being able to adopt innovation. As we know, every vendor out there is investing, all of their research and development is going into cloud services. We're seeing a lot less around the on-prem, and for most organizations, we are looking to compete to compete against those in the industry, and to be able to do that, to remain relevant, we need to be adopting technology that can help us advance forward. And that's why, as I said before, looking at those integrations, seeing how we can look at using virtual assistants and AI to be able to really transform what we're doing. And that can only be done with cloud transformation now, I think. So those two are the key things for me. I don't know, Rob, if you have any other thoughts on other benefits.
Yeah, I have, and I think one of these relates to actually one of the questions that we've had in as well, which is around kind of so there's actually two questions that came in around one around other vendors and one around what differentiates different cloud calling providers. And I think a lot of this comes back to there's two ways to look at that, I guess. There's the feature game, so let me look at the services that I get. So do I get voicemail? Do I get a DDI? How many minutes do I get? Can I transfer calls? All the kind of feature stuff that people use to the stuff that you would see in a tender typically if you were putting a tender together. And I think pretty much, as you said, Iqbal, those are pretty much on par now. There might be the odd thing, and one might have music on hold and one might not. but generally speaking, 90% of all the servers that are out there now are enterprise grade. They're fully resilient. They're scalable. They offer a per user per month model, or some other kind of model of how they're all pretty similar. I think the big thing for me goes back to the point that we talked about around, do you want an integrated solution? So if you look at where a lot of the benefits come from, and I'm going to not take credit for some of these, but refer to a recent Forrester economic study on cloud calling, and actually, they pull out, and we'll share a link if you've not seen this afterwards, everybody. But the benefits they pull out, and they say 4, but they list 5. So maybe that's not the best, But one of them is the amount of time that users save by having a telephony platform integrated into their wider collaboration platform. So if you think about that from a workflow perspective, if you're in a chat conversation, you bring somebody else into the chat, that then becomes an online conference between 3 or 4 people, and then you need to bring somebody else into that call, but you need to dial them in. Then if you've not got a totally integrated solution, then you have to kind of break that communication silo and start again, and then make it a telephone conference or an audio dialing conference or something like that. So that whole integration piece, Forrester claim is a big time-saving benefit if you can integrate them. I think there's then also the other points around, it should be a better service. It should be more secure. It should be more scalable, because it's built to do that. If you think about a voice environment that you may build, and this is no disrespect to anybody's IT team or technical capability, but these big leading cloud providers, this is all they do. They can build a bigger, stronger, more scalable cloud platform than anybody else, any individual business can probably provide, unless you're buying from a dedicated provider. The other key thing, of course, as we've touched on before, is just the complexity and cost that we have. So when you're buying a cloud service, you're just buying a service, and maybe bolt-on services. You haven't got to worry about the solution cost, maintenance, upgrading it, patching it, downsizing it, reconnecting it, all these other kind of things. And you'd also should expect to get lower cost, because the telcos, the Microsoft, Cisco's, RingCentral, whoever, have got so much negotiation power with the way that they negotiate those minutes, because they buy so many of them, that you should get a better price. And I think the other one that comes up a lot, particularly now post-COVID, is because it's cloud, in the same way of Office 365 and those kind of services, you can access it from anywhere. So I can plug a phone on my desk. If I want to have a phone on my desk, I can plug it in and it just registers to the cloud. I don't have to worry about VPN connections or weird secure gateways or those kind of things. Wherever I go, I can use my phone. I can use a soft client, I can use my mobile, I can use whatever I want to do. Forrester then also talk about some, I'd say, unquantified benefits, which, and if you read the study, they'll pull the details in, but they also claim that cloud voice from the people they've interviewed does provide increased security and compliance, and it is their responsibility to make sure that those services are secured and compliant against all the global compliance regulations that are out there. Many say it has better performance and better quality, and I guess a lot of that comes back to where is the ingress point. So the internet and your network still becomes the primary point that needs to be good to access a cloud service. In the same way, if you've got poor internet connectivity, you can't watch BBC iPlayer. The same thing applies, obviously, with things like cloud. And finally, Forrester, and I will share the link, but they've tried to put some tangible numbers into these things, and the way they've kind of represented it is, they feel for a typical organisation of 2,500 to 5,000 people, that they should expect to see an hour and a half per week of productivity savings by having these integrated solutions across cloud providers. So there's some quite interesting stats, but a lot of it comes back to that point around what's the strategy, and do you want an integrated collaboration platform?
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Iqbal. And guys, just shifting very, very quickly to the questions from our followers. I'm going to actually put a holding pattern against the questions about other vendors and how you differentiate different cloud calling providers. And a spoiler alert, really, from a Cisilion point of view, next week where we're going to be showing you, our customers, our partners and followers, how Cisilion have simplified and packaged up what we created, what is the most efficient way for businesses to move to a cloud communications platform. But then thereafter, we're actually gonna, and everyone on the call who remembers Cisilian's Battle of the Giants events in our London Innovation Centre a few years back, where we literally put Cisco and Microsoft together. In a few weeks' time, to answer those questions, you're going to see us lay it bare, the differences, the benefits, the use cases, and all of that. So do bear with us. Do tune in for the next 3 weeks. We've got a little interlude with Microsoft Ignite in the middle. And Warren, just to go to your question there, how many of our customers are actually using WebEx or Teams for calling? Gosh, in my mind, probably a couple of dozen. Nevertheless, Iqbal, Rob, you're probably closer to that question than I am. So just before I wrap up, I'll bounce that over to you, Rob. How many, and Iqbal, how many customers have we got, or how many businesses are we aware of at least that are doing this?
Yeah, if I'd known that question was there, I would have gone and done a count. I think you're probably right. 2, 3, maybe 4 dozen across the board. A lot, I think, and more. You know, if I look at what we're doing, we very rarely now do anything that's not cloud. So most of the projects that we're working on are all cloud voice. We've just moved, I know, in the last few months, and I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning, but we've moved Govia Thameslink, who you'll all know who they are. They're now all using Teams with voice. We've done Revu recently as well. You'll all probably have heard of Revu. They've moved across. We've done a large number of education academies moving there. You know, one of the big challenges they have is lots of different academies have different phone systems all over the place, and they're not very well joined together. We've been working with a few academy trusts to build an integrated, consistent platform across the board. And outside of that, you know, we've got some customers that are 5, 6, 7,000 voice users that are in the process of migrating to cloud voice. Iqbal, I know you've got some pretty good examples there as well.
I think the thing to consider here is what we're seeing is the larger enterprise is perhaps taking a little bit longer to make that adoption happen, but it is now being fast-tracked more than ever now. So you know, I'm working with some of our key accounts with users over 1,000 are now looking at the impact of this on a global level, and I think that's why it's taking a little bit longer, but it's something that can be piecemealed and doesn't need to be done using a big bang approach. We can help many customers transition very slowly into a cloud infrastructure, but I think that the important thing here isn't just, you know, switching on a cloud service and then adopting it immediately. It's understanding the investments today as well. I think most customers recognize that actually they have investments in phones and existing contract and everything else, so we can help try and make sense of that and then build a program of works to help make that transition happen. So it's cost effective as well. Not you know, it's not a case of purchasing company-wide licenses day one. Let's just ramp up slowly. Let's get everybody migrated in the right time frame. And that's the journey that most of our kind of larger enterprises on today. So I'm just going to wrap up because I'm conscious of time as well. But yeah, looking forward to next week's session.
Brilliant. And just in terms of next week, thanks Rob, thanks Iqbal for today. It's one of the most exciting things that Cisilion have probably ever talked about, where we're branding up you know, so it's a bit cheeky really. We've been doing it for 5 years and we're branding it up now as our own offer, but it really is impactful, guys. It's really innovative. It's new, but it's not new, and it should change your business if you're watching this and you're keen to look at this technology. So do tune in next week. Thanks producer Andrew and everyone for joining today. I wish you all a great day, happy weekend, and look forward to seeing you guys next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.